So, the Joker, Atheism Debunked, has admitted defeat. How you say? Well, he tried to respond to my last video with a combination of deflections, straw man arguments, and outright lies. I know. What's new, you ask? After all, he is a Christian apologist. Well, let's just debunk him anyway. The first point is a straw man. This guy does this a lot. Either he is incredibly stupid, has a low attention span, or is just plain ignorant. Or he's all three. I have no idea what my criticism of his young earth creationist belief has to do with evolution. I specifically mentioned his silly and laughable belief that the earth is 6,000 years old because the scientific evidence discounts it. You don't have to be an evolutionist to laugh at such a belief. Even intelligent design proponents who reject Darwinian evolution as a viable explanation for life on Earth nevertheless accept the scientific consensus that the Earth is billions of years old. Of course, we can't blame this joker for believing the Earth is 6,000 years old. It's in his Bible, which is just more proof that the Bible is false. Though, to be fair, there are other Christians who try to interpret the Genesis creation account in a metaphorical way because they know that the universe is far older than a literal reading of the Bible suggests. The second point is about the tons of scholarly literature that shows the Bible's reliance on pagan mythology. This guy is stuck on his initial straw man, that the myths are not the same. Duh! We know they're not the same. Again, that was never my claim. Cultures tend to reuse the myths of other cultures by appropriating them and then changing them to fit their own beliefs and views. This guy is clearly in fierce denial about his Bible's appropriation of pagan mythology. Imagine finding out that the Egyptians believed in a pregnant goddess mother with the sun on her head, giving birth to a divine child, and who was then threatened by a red dragon, and then insisting that it is no big deal that the book of Revelation also has a mythical vision with a pregnant woman clothed with the sun and a red dragon trying to kill her and her child because some details are different. The third point is hilarious and marks the point at which this joker essentially admits defeat. He knows he can't defend his Bible, so he does what any Christian apologist would do when cornered: deflect the Quran and insist that destroying the Bible somehow destroys the Quran. He claims that since the Quran says the disciples of Jesus were righteous, then saying that the author of Revelation copied pagan myths is to reject the Quran. There are so many fallacies here, I don't know where to start. Well, first of all the Quran says in Surah 61:14 is that the disciples promised to be righteous. But that doesn't mean that they all fulfilled that promise, does it? Presumably, among the disciples at the time was Judas, and we all know what he did, at least according to the contradictory Gospels. Furthermore, in Surah 5, Allah tells us how the disciples asked Jesus to pray for a table from heaven to reassure themselves that Jesus was truly a prophet of God. After Jesus prayed, Allah answered that he would fulfill their request, but warned that whoever disbelieved after this would be severely punished. This shows that there is no guarantee that every single disciple remained a righteous person. Maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. Also, notice what Ibn Kathir mentions in his commentary on verse 115. Among the people that will receive the most severe punishment on the Day of Judgment will be those from the people of Al-Ma'idah, the table, who disbelieved in it. How did they disbelieve? According to one report, some of the people stole food from the table. So, even if John the disciple was the author of Revelation, it does not necessarily mean that he remained a faithful follower of Jesus. But the other problem for the joker is that he has no proof that John the disciple was the same as John of Patmos. Indeed, there are good reasons to doubt that the person who wrote the Gospel of John, whoever he was not the author of Revelation. The USCCB, or United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, states that vocabulary, grammar, and style make it doubtful that the book was written by the same person or persons who wrote the fourth gospel. And as for the popularity of the book, Burton Mack states that we are not able to follow the early history of its transmission, and the evidence for its being read with appreciation is spotty. As for church fathers like Justin Martyr and Irenaeus endorsing the Gospel of John and Revelation as the work of the disciple John, Elaine Pagels observes that critical readers from Irenaeus' own time to the present have challenged this claim, pointing out that the two books diverge sharply in language and style. So there were divergent views among Christians as to who wrote the book of Revelation. This brings us to the last point. This ignoramus claims that the earliest resistance to the idea that John wrote Revelation was Eusebius, and that it had already been decided by earlier church fathers like Irenaeus and Justin Martyr that John was the author. This is just not true. This guy needs to pick up a book once in a while and do some real research. Elaine Pagels shows us what the facts really are. Ironically, both Revelation and the Gospel of John were championed by the heretic Montanus, His so-called New Prophecy movement began in the 160s, and as Pagels explains, heated arguments split churches throughout Asia Minor, threatening schism. A majority of bishops there voted to censor the new prophets and declared that their two favorite books, the Book of Revelation and the Gospel of John, contained nothing but blasphemous lies. It continues, opponents of the new prophecy appealed for support to the Christian Bishop of Rome and found an advocate among his clergy. A Roman priest named Gaius challenged the new prophets and publicly argued that the books on which they relied for support, Revelation and John, both had been written not by a disciple but a heretic named Cerinthus. So, contrary to the claims of the ignoramus Atheism Debunked, we can see that many Christians, including leaders of the church in the 2nd century, opposed not only the Book of Revelation, but also the Gospel of John. Ouch!
وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا